Hello everyone, Rob here. I'm going to shoot a quick video on Cisco certification real quick and give a brief intro as to how I'm going to throw up a free video series on my YouTube channel on Cisco certification and not Cisco certification, but everything you're going to need to know about the ICND 1 exam, the CCENT exam, and what you need to learn to pass it, and some additional things that I'll throw in there that might come in handy in the real world. By day, I'm a network engineer for a large corporation in Milwaukee that is quite, we're global, so we have sites all over around the world. By night, I am a full-time student at a Gateway Technical in Racine, I'm studying right now for my CCIE certification. I'm about, well, I don't even know, 20% of the way through, maybe, possibly. But what I'm going to do real quick in this video is explain Cisco certification. I'll start with the entry level and work my way up to the architect, which I know very little about. But I will explain some of the things about Cisco certification, how it kind of works, and I'll go from there. So the CCENT exam, which is this guy right here. It is a pretty in-depth exam for entry-level people. If you don't know anything about networking, this is a good way to break into it because it teaches you the OSI model. It teaches you the TCP/IP stack. Subnetting. It teaches you. It teaches you a lot, actually. There's a lot of there. I'll go over subnetting. I'm going to go over how a router works, how a switch works. I have 4 switches here at home. I have two access layer and 2 distribution layer switches. I'll explain the difference between those and kind of the if you were to build a switch network, how you would do it. How you would get your routers to your switches and your users to your switches and then back out to the internet. The process that you use to get your devices off your network. What a subnet is, what an IP address is, a default gateway. How to recognize if your IP address is in the right subnet range, that type of stuff. So everything will be available on my YouTube channel. And as soon as I get a recording device, besides doing live video capture of on my iPhone, I want to actually have it to where you can see the screen, and then I can actually pull up like Packet Tracer, which is this program right here. You can't really. Packet Tracer is this program. Anybody that's in the Cisco's Networking Academy can use Packet Tracer. It's a great tool because it gives you enough of the operating system so that you can play around with the operating system, the iOS, work with the command line interface, that type of stuff. But the beautiful thing about Packet Tracer is, like I said, you can take a router, take another router. We're going to put 2 1841s out here, and then we'll take and just click on this guy, do a crossover cable. Why did that? Oh, wrong button. Sometimes you can click on it and no, I want to delete that. Sometimes you have to be kind of there. Why would you use a crossover between two routers? Well, because you're going from network card to network card. Any like devices, router to router, switch to switch, PC to PC, hub to hub, need to have crossover because the send and receive pins are reversed, and I'll explain how that works. So if you're going to take a switch like this, you would go straight through from here to here and from here to here, and then you would turn the interfaces on. This would be a subnet right here. Over here this would be a subnet, and then over here this would be a subnet. But actually, because this switch has two ways to get off its network, you would have this interface right here would be like a .1, and this would be a .2, and then you could set up on this switch that it would have a default gateway here and a default gateway here, and I'll show you how that works. But the nice thing about Packet Tracer is it allows you to build very extensive networks to do basic routing, basic switching. I believe it'll handle up to BGP. It doesn't do any MPLS, so if you're looking to get into MPLS, it's not going to be what you need. But it'll get you basic routing and switching. You could do frame relay on here, so on and so forth. So it gives you some capabilities. Because I am a Cisco certified engineer, I have to mention that this is a networking academy software that you get in order to use in your studies. Now anybody can get anything off the internet for free, which I'm sure there's anybody that's going to watch this is going to know that. So if you're, tech savvy enough, you're probably going to be able to find it online and download it. I know there's websites out there that give you labs. I will set up labs as I'm going through explaining how everything works, and basic routing, basic switching, stuff like that. There's just a static route and a default route, stuff like that. How to assign an IP address to a interface, stuff like that. It'll be basic stuff for the first, I don't know, I can't even tell you how many videos. I can't see it being very many, because I will try to cover as many topics as I can in a short amount of period. But the nice thing about the CCNT or the CCENT exam is it's basic stuff. It's entry level. So I'm going to tip this back real quick. The CCENT exam, which is right here. This is CCENT certification. You can go to Cisco's website, cisco.com, and click on training and events right here, and then go to CCENT. It's out of the screenshot, but it's right there. You click on that, and it takes you to another page, and then you're able to register with Cisco as a user, and then you're able to view the exam topics and stuff like that, which is actually where I'm at right now. It goes over what the exam is going to cover, stuff like that. So what you will learn in this, the exam tests a candidate's knowledge and skills required to successfully install, operate, and troubleshoot a small branch office network. It includes networking fundamentals, connecting to a WAN, basic security, wireless concepts, routing and switching fundamentals, TCP, IP, and OSI, IP addressing, WAN, operating and configuring iOS, configuring version 2, static and default routing, NAT, DHCP, and configuring simple networks. I will go over all of that, and I will go step by step. So, as you see down here, it says exam topics, which you will go over. But one thing that they're specific is right here. The guidelines below may change at any time without notice. I haven't really ran into that in exams, so they put it out there as a waiver, so they can't be like, well, they won't throw anything at you like, this is going to go over OSPF or EIGRP, so you're not going to get into multi-area OSPF, so you won't have to worry about that. But actually they've updated this a little bit since the last time I read it. That's why I'm going over with you guys now. They're going to describe the purpose and functions of various network devices. What's a router? What's a switch? How do they work? How do you connect them? Which is how this works. See what I mean? So it's like you have a router, you have a switch. A router connects multiple networks together. A switch gets your servers, your printers, your end users, your laptops, your iPads, your and stuff like that. It connects. It gets everything to the router and then off to the network. And then I'll go over. What I will do is I will describe the operation of data networks. I will go through step by step on everything on this. So it's like select the components required to meet a given network specification. So I'll set up a mini lab, and I'll be like, okay, you have 30 users on this subnet. So I'll pull this back up. You have 30 users on this subnet, and I can actually throw another switch out here. And I'm out of my interfaces on this guy. So like what I would do is I would put another fast Ethernet connection down to this guy. So actually what I would do is like here, you'd grab a crossover cable, connect here, and connect to this guy. And now you notice how the lights are yellow instead of red? It means you're using the correct type of cable. Just because they're red here doesn't mean anything, because I'm getting kind of raspy. When you have red lights on a router, it means there's no IP addresses put on there, and the ports on the router are shut down. So if I was to come in here and hit the command line, and now that is fast01, and hit no, go enable conf t, and then do interface fast 0/1 and do no shut. Notice how it changed to up. Guess what? Green and yellow. I'll explain why one side goes green right away and one side goes yellow. You don't necessarily have to have an interface, because like I'll do and I do show IP interface brief, and as you can see, there's no IP address assigned, but the interface is up. So it's line protocol is up, or line is up and protocol is up. Line means it's physically plugged into the interface or the switch or the router. Protocol means there's either data or there's some sort of electrical signal going across the line. So that's basically what that's. Anywho, keep getting bugged. But see, that's basically how Packet Tracer will work, and I'll design some labs and go through how the stuff works. But like I said, you'll have the OSI model. I'll explain how that works, the different aspects of it in depth, so you'll have a solid understanding how it works. Networking applications, I'll explain how Telnet and SSH work. It says describe the purpose and basic operations of the protocols in the OSI and TCP models. Open systems interconnect and transmission control protocol. OSI is a 7-layer model of how data networks move information from the application layer, which is what you're looking at right here. This is the application layer, down to the wired interface, which is layer 1, and how it gets up and down the stack. TCP is very similar to it. Fewer layers, there's 4 of them. Same concept. and you go through and it explains how, or I will explain how the different layers work. Then it says the impacts of applications such as voice over IP on a network, what you need to have on that, how quality of service works, class of service, type of service, network diagrams. I will show you a network diagram, and then I will make it. I'll show you like a Visio document almost, and then I will show you a what do you call it? An actual like topology. So like you'll see a network diagram similar to this, but in like a Word document, and then you'll see a. I'll actually make it real, and then we'll build it. So we'll start with a basic network topology, and we'll grow it. I will take you way beyond anything you'll need for the CCENT exam in this realm right here. But what it'll do is it'll cover enough to where you'll be able to walk in, jump on a router or switch, and configure, basic things like routing and switching. And I will cover basic VLAN stuff, which I'll get into later on down the road. But and then describe the components required for network and internet communications. I will talk about that. And then the differences between LAN and WAN operations and features. And then it covers implement a small switch network, different types of cables and ports and connectors you'll need, the technology and access control, media access control, MAC address for Ethernet technologies, network segmentation, Cisco switches and switching concepts, perform, save, and verify initial switch config. I'll show you how to do what some people call a feed file, where you have initial configuration, like you'll have your console and your telnet, your VTY connections. You'll have a username and password. You'll be able to set up remote connectivity, so you'll be able to throw an IP address on a VLAN, and you'll be able to remote the switch from your desk instead of sitting inside or standing at the console of the router or the switch. You'll be able to verify network status through different show commands. I'll show you how debugs work. Basic port security, like how would you turn a port off, how would you implement security, how would you limit it so that you can only connect one computer to a port, stuff like that. And then I will I will set up some things, and I'll show you how you go from packet tracer's kind of buggy this way, and I'll show you what I mean. We'll kill this link, and then we'll go straight through, and then we'll connect here. Notice how it's red. Well, it's actually doing it this time, but like I said, with like devices, you have to have crossover. Notice how it's red and red. Even if I was to go in on the port with a switch, it's gonna. Even if I was to go to config and then fast 1, the port is on. And then I'll explain how bandwidth and duplex, why it's auto is set, the difference between a trunk port and nexus port, and how VLANs work, and that type of stuff. And I'll explain how that kind of stuff comes into play. But if you notice how it's red, because it's a straight-through cable, meaning it's supposed to be unlike devices. So you could take a end device, like a computer, and you can take crossover, do the same thing I did here a minute ago. Notice how it went yellow on both ones. Now I'll take it straight through, and I will connect this guy to here. Notice how it's green and yellow. Now I could do a crossover. I could put another computer here. I'll put it right here. I can do crossover, and I will kill this link. And I can do crossover between here and here. Notice how they're green. Now this guy can send information to this guy. So that's basically how that works. And then I will explain how switch media issues, configuration issues, auto negotiation. That's where this guy came in, where it was fast 1. It was auto negotiation, supposed to auto, how you could hard code that to being 100 meg and on full duplex. And then it says implement an IP addressing scheme and services to meet network requirements for a small branch office. So what I will do is I will say, okay, I'll write up a small lab and say, okay, for this link they need 100 users, for this link they need 50 users, and for this link they need 300 users, and how you would figure out the subnetting for that, stuff like that. Where to how to apply with the classful versus classless subnetting, and how the router differentiates between the two, and stuff like that. And then it says configure and verify, adding hosts and network devices. You implement basic NAT for one ISP. NAT is network address translation. It's how you get your public address to your private address, and you're able to use one public IP address in order to get your entire network on the internet. DNS, domain name service, how you're able to take an IP address and associate that to a name, like www.yahoo.com will be whatever, it'll be 22.35.120.63. And then I'll show you the differences and what the different the operation and benefits of using private and public IP addressing. I don't have the SDM, so we won't be using that. I'll show you what it looks like, and then I'll show you how DHCP and DNS looks on the SDM, but you really won't have to worry about it. I haven't run into the SDM at all in the real world, so I don't think anybody uses it. Static and dynamic addressing services for hosts in a LAN environment. I'll show you how you can set up DHCP on the router, and it will. Packet tracer is really buggy for stuff like that, so it's probably not going to work that well. And then identify and correct IP addressing issues. So I will put the wrong IP address on a link, and I'll show you why it's not working. And it says implement a small routed network. We will go through basic routing concepts, how what the packet header looks like, how it determines where it's going to go, where it's coming from, what gets changed, what stays the same, how it looks at the routing process, what a recursive lookup is, the operations of a router, how it boots up, where the iOS is stored, where the running config is stored, that type of stuff. This is basically the same thing as a switch network, and I'll explain how crossover versus straight through. RIP version 2, I have to be honest with you, friends don't let friends use RIP. RIP is the first, this is version 2. I'll explain the two different versions. And then connect and configure and verify the operation of a status of a device interface. I will get on here and I will explain why on this switch. Fast Ethernet under the interface configuration mode. I'll explain how it goes and how you would get hard code 100 meg or speed 100 duplex full, that type of stuff. And then saving your iOS config. So once you get done configuring your device, you're going to want to copy your running config to your startup config, that type of stuff. And then the iOS, I will show you how to upgrade, downgrade, stuff like that. Ping and trace route, telnet, ARP, IP config. I'll explain what ARP is, how you use that. Then comes into wireless. Now, this is kind of older. Wi-Fi being kind of the kind of redheaded stepchild. It's so overly used nowadays that it's like you walk into a network. A few years ago, wireless wasn't that big. We're talking 2007, 2008. Not everybody was using it. Now you walk into an environment, the wireless is down, and you have multiple subnets of wireless, and you have specific devices around the wireless. Where a lot of companies are using the BYOD, or the bring your own device, which is really hard for administrators to keep the network secure, and at the same point minimize having to spend thousands of dollars on, you know, buying devices like iPads and iPhones and Androids and stuff like that. So I'll explain the different ways it works and how you can do basic wireless with this guy. I think it's in here. Access points. Wireless. There's a wireless tablet out here. I've never actually used this because I've never had a reason to. But then it's basic security, and then how to. It's really hard at the entry level to really plan for and mitigate a threat. I mean, you can implement port security on a router or a switch. On a switch, it's easier because you go switch port security, and what you want it to do. Do you want to limit how many MAC addresses per port? That type of stuff. I will show you access lists. It's way beyond anything you're going to know on the CCENT, but like an access list, for instance, since we're here, like I will enter and I'll go enable. We're going to go global config. We're going to go IP access list, and then you got your standard and extended. I'll explain how they work. And we're going to go standard, and then we're going to go we're going to go accent 1, and then we're going to anytime you use the question mark, it's context sensitive help. So if you're not sure what to type, this will tell you your options. Now this is very limited. This operating system in Packet Tracer, it only gives you some commands. When we get a little farther and we're doing more advanced things, I will get out of Packet Tracer and I'll jump into GNS3. And GNS3 will basically go over. It's the actual iOS, and it's able to be emulated on your Windows or Linux computer. It works, according to a lot of people, it works better on Linux than it does in Windows, but I've never had a problem in Windows. But you do this, and then you can do your permit and deny statements. So you can do, like, you want to deny a single host, an IP address. So like you can deny the 172.16.3.0 network. Then you want to enter your wildcard bits, so it'll be 0.0.0.0.255, meaning you want all 255 hosts. I'll explain what a wildcard mask is, and then enter, and then you're denying an entire subnet. Now you don't have to enter the wildcard mask; it'll work without it. But the wildcard mask just specifies more, and then you can do that. Then whatever you deny, there's an implicit deny all at the bottom of this this access list. So unless you type in permit and any after that, anything that will line by line, and so you can do end and you do show access list. So actually, what it does is if you, and this is kind of buggy, but it is what it is. If you do this, it's the whole subnet. If you want, you can deny the host, but one thing that I will show you guys is 0 cannot be, well, at your level, I wouldn't be breaking it down to the extent of where you can put 0 as an IP address, but you can actually use this as an actual, could be a host IP address. It could be, depending on your network setup. But and then you go config T, and then you go no, or we'll do go back to this guy, hit Control A to go back to the beginning. No, anything no, you put no in front of anything negates the command. So you do end, and you do a show access list. It's gone now. So I will show you how that works, and then we're almost at the bottom, and then we'll do WAN links and how you set up a WAN connection. And actually, I'll jump back over here and what I will do is I will turn this guy off, and I'll put a WIC1T, and I'll explain how you take, actually I can move this over here just a bit, how you can take these different modules and put them in here. And we'll do that, and then same thing with this guy. We're going to go back to the physical, we'll turn it off, and then we'll put a WIC1T and then turn it back on, and then we'll delete this guy. Oh, excuse me. And then go back over to this here, and then we will pick serial DCE 0 to this guy, and then I'll explain how this is a wide area network, which means this router might be in Chicago, this router might be in Milwaukee, but they have a wide area connection going through the cloud. But this wire is for the time being, will signify the cloud, and then it will it'll come in here, and it will how do I put it? We'll assume for training purposes. I don't want to get too technical about it. Oh, for training purposes, this will be a point-to-point connection. And right now it's running a particular HDLC, which is, I was originally told Cisco proprietary, but it's actually not. It's actually it's an open standard, but Cisco adopted it. And then I will explain how you set that up. And once you put an IP address on here on this side, because if you notice right there, there's a circle with a couple lines drawn in it. DCE is your clock side, and T is your termination. So data clocking equipment and data termination equipment. Clocking is always going to go on the service provider side. If this was a ISP router, and this guy is doing this, he's saying send, going this way. So he's saying send. And that the faster the higher the number, the faster he's sending. So that's basically how that works. And I will set it up, and you'll be able to ping across and stuff like that. And I'll show you how to route it and all that type of stuff. So that's basically how that works. Now I want to quickly jump over to the ICND2 exam, which is the CCNA equivalent, and you've got to click on this, and it's probably going to default out and say, you need to be logged in. Well, I am logged in. And then it'll come over here, and then this is kind of beefier. This goes into deeper topics, and you get into VLANs and IPv6 and EIGRP and OSPF, and how VLAN trunking protocol and rapid spanning tree and stuff like that work, and how to do frame relay. I'll explain this stuff, VLANs, and I will explain this. I will cover all of this actually, and so that you guys are completely comfortable. It'll be a CCENT/CCNA training, and then there will be a more advanced subnetting, and then basic routing, and for OSPF and EIGRP, what to look for, how they work, NAT and access control list. You already saw me do an ACL, and then WAN links, and I'll set up frame relay. I'll troubleshoot WANs. What are the things you need to look for? Configuring point-to-point connection, PPP, and then explain what a VPN is, how that works, and stuff like that. So the basics to this exam, it's if you come over here to CCNA composite exam, it's basically combining ICND1 and ICND2 into the same exam. So I don't like how it does that, but basically the same thing. It's going to cover all the same stuff, except for it's more in depth on different things. So the questions you will see on the ICND1 and the ICND2, they will, and if you notice, they've taken like this section right here. This is the CCENT extent. This is how far it goes with the CCENT. With the CCNA, it expands into all this. So this right here is CCNA level topics, or CCENT, and this is CCNA. And then this is CCENT, and then this stuff right here is CCNA. And then this is CCENT stuff as well. And then the higher you come up, it gets more into more complicated stuff. And then since I have your attention, I'm sorry, I didn't expect to take this long. I'm going to get into the professional side, routing and switching, and there's 3 exams for this guy. There's the route, switch, and T-shoot. Overview. This is more complex. This is what I do pretty much every day. And you will be configuring and implementing EIGRP, and then OSPF, and then how to route them both over frame relay. Then you'll get BGP, configuring internal and external BGP. Internal being on your network, on the network that you run. eBGP is where you connect to a service provider or another autonomous system. Then IPv6 and how it works. Routing using OSP version 3, OSPF version 3, EIGRP version 6, RIP-NG, RIP next generation, and then you'll learn how to redistribute IPv4 and IPv6, and then layer 3 path control. You'll learn GRE tunneling, VPN technologies, path control. You'll be doing policy routing, stuff like that. And then the switch exam is very similar to that, except for it's more switch based, obviously. And then the switch exam you can't do in GNS3 or in Packet Tracer. So these topics are way beyond anything I'm going to talk about, really. But it's going to talk about advanced LAN stuff. You're going to get into VLAN access control and port access control. And then you're going to get layer 3 switching and how that works, and high availability, and your first hop redundancy protocols like HSRP and VRRP. So that's basically going to cover everything. But I'm going to keep it simple, and we will get a basic. But by the time I'm all said and done, you guys will be able to pass your exam for sure, because then I will go over everything you'll need to know. There were some things that were missed on when I was going through my studies that I learned by looking it up after I failed the first time. So I will take what I learned and I will pass it to you all. And I don't know how many videos it'll be, but I will be like CCENT this and CCENT that, CCENT this, and it should take a while for me to record the videos because I'm still doing CCIE training. And real quick, while I've got you here, expansion drive. This is the level I'm at. So like you're gonna get into a lot of hardcore topics, and these are all live videos. I'm ready to go through them. So like RIP, there's a lot you can do with it. EIGRP, there's a ton you can do with it. OSPF, the CCIE and CCNP tracks, they both spend a lot of time on OSPF because OSPF is obviously open source, and you'll spend a lot of time learning the different area types and totally stubby and not so stubby area. BGP, MPLS, IPv6, multicast, your quality of service, and then your services and your first top redundancy stuff. So you'll a lot of the stuff I won't go over in our training, but by the time you get done with it, you'll have a solid foundation to get into your what do you call it? You would be able to schedule and pass your CCENT exam when I'm all said and done. But the one thing I want to leave you with is this: when you're studying for your exams, you want to make sure that you have. Actually, when I'm talking here, let me go search, and we're gonna go CCENT study guide. Who's this by? Todd Lamalley. Todd Lamalley's okay. I'm not exactly thrilled with him. If you're gonna get anything, I would recommend either Wendell Odom. Yeah, I'll probably go with Wendell Odom. This he's a CCIE. The guy's really good. He's written a book that I'm actually reading right now. This is one second. CCIE Routing and Switching version 4 certification guide, 4th edition. And if you look right here, Wendell Odom. Wendell Odom, he's got one of the earliest CCIE numbers I've ever seen. It's 1624. The guy's great. And then, it goes through and stuff like that, and Russ Healy, Denise Donahue. But that's the book I'm reading. This one right here, you can probably get the Kindle version for really cheap. Actually, it's right there. It's like $20. I would recommend getting a study guide because the fact that it's going to go over everything you need to know about the CCNA and the CCENT exam. My best, because right here, actually, this is what you need to know. It shows it right here. TCP and OSI networking. And actually, you know what I'm going to do is copy these. Let me open a notepad document. Paste. So these are the topics that save as. So now I will be able to look up CCENT, and then I will know when I'm going through here, I will be writing notes. You can't really, actually I can bring it. 1 second.